And for more on the markets, let's bring in Rebecca Walser, president of Walser Wealth Management. Rebecca, good morning.
Good
We
morning.
just got those numbers in for the weekly unemployment claims. Considering the ADP report and those jobless numbers um, showing about 3.2 million people losing their jobs in the last week, what are you expecting for tomorrow, the big jobs report for April?
Yeah, I mean, I think the consensus is 21 million, which is, almost unfathomable, except for you can fathom it because we've been living through it. So it's not going to be a pretty number, but I think it's expected at this point. And if it's above that, that would be what we would be concerned about and we've had the numbers adding up all along, so we don't see that it's going to be above that. But it could be, we could have more of an impact. This week was a little bit of a surprise, right? We were expecting 3 million and 3.17, 3.2 million is a little bit of a surprise, but it is less than last week, which was 3.8. So that's a good sign.
What are the monthly jobs that report that we're getting tomorrow? What does that offer that we don't get from the ADP report and the weekly claims? Is it just the wage growth as well? Why is the monthly jobs report so incredibly important?
Well, I think it's just an aggregating factor, I mean, we get all of these weekly reports. We get the ADP private payroll reports, but the actual official, labor report, I think, is an aggregator with obviously the wage numbers, and obviously economists are forecasting and prognosticating, but we could get some surprises, and that's why there's always adjustments the month, lagging behind. And so that's really what we're looking for. And like even today, we had estimates of 3 million, and it was actually 3.17 million. So, there's always things that happen in the actual official reports that we're looking for.
What kind of recovery and timeline are you now expecting and pricing into the markets? We've heard about a V-shaped recovery, a U, an L, a Nike swoosh. What is your thinking?
Nike swoosh. That's a new one. I'll tell you, I don't think it's going to be a V. I don't think it's going to be as drastic and dramatic as a V. But I was actually surprised. I took my first flight this week. I couldn't avoid a trip, and I was actually in the Charlotte airport yesterday, and it was very busy. And I was in the American terminal, and there were like probably maybe 10 different gates around me, and every single gate had a flight out leaving, and they were all and I won't say they were all packed because we weren't packed. I mean, my flight was not anywhere near packed, but I was just surprised because when I flew out, my airport was basically empty. I mean, literally, it was just my flight. And so to be in an airport where you see 10 gates all with flights going out, of course, it's a hub, I understand, but it was surprising. I was shocked. And I know that's anecdotal, but I will just say that I think people want to get back to work. They want to go out. They want to go to the restaurants. I know restaurant owners want to have people come in. So I can't say that we're going to have a V, but I definitely can say I think May is going to still have volatility. I mean, we're going to have positive numbers with jobs and people going back to work, but we're also going to have earnings that are still showing the fact that we have been closed down, and that is, economic disaster. So you're going to have volatility in May, but I do start to see some real positive things happening in June. So whether that's you want to qualify that as a U or something else, I think people are wanting a definitive. It's going to be dramatic, and I don't know that it'll be dramatic. I think it's going to be kind of a hit or miss for a while.
Do you envision that a lot of the people who were laid off, do you envision that companies are going to rehire them right away?
Well, I think that your companies are going to do what the strategic thing, and they're going to see what the demand is. So they're going to start off with probably, I won't say bare bones. They're going to start off with, a minimal amount of staff that they think can accommodate the needs, whatever business and industry we're talking about. And once they see where the demand is, if the demand comes in surprising, if people go back to restaurants and say, you know what, I have to live my life. I'm not going to stay home and worry that I could get sick for the rest of my life. That's no kind of life. If the demand surprises, then businesses will have to ramp up faster than maybe they would. But I think at first, though, we're going to take a very cautious approach of how many people they recall, because the last thing you want to do is recall somebody and say, I'm sorry, we don't have what we thought. You're now furloughed again, and that would be a disaster. So I think businesses will be very cautious.
Switching gears a bit, President Trump saying yesterday that China may or may not keep the trade deal, that phase one trade deal. How much of an impact is tension between the U.S. and China having on markets?
You just couldn't plan this, right? Like we finally get a trade deal signed this beginning of this year, and then literally the next month, this all happens. Yeah, I think that President Trump is not going to be happy today when he sees the number that, a surprise number of exports, an increase of 3.5% unexpectedly from China. I don't think it's that surprising because China is the supplier of a lot of goods and certainly a lot of pharma and components to the world, and everyone needs that right now. So I think that is probably not so unexpected, even though it was unexpected. And so, but I don't think that's going to make President Trump very happy. And certainly he's going to want to hold their feet to the fire. If you're, going up and exporting more than you thought, you should be able to hold up your end of the bargain, a phase one trade deal. And honestly, I think that President Trump is doing a great job of trying to walk a really fine line of holding them accountable to a phase one trade deal and making that a positive relationship, while yet still, wanting to say, hey, this virus originated in China and they were not forthcoming and they were not transparent, and that affected the world globally on all of the infections and the spread rate. So it's a very fine line he's trying to walk between maintaining this trade deal and yet still holding them accountable for what he feels was their lack of transparency. And so if they're not going to hold up their trade deal, and then the line is gone, and I think he will definitely say this is not going to happen.
All right, Rebecca Walser, president of Walser Wealth Management. Really great to have you on.